Hi everyone, my name is Angela Rogers. I'm in Dr. Monica O'Rourke's Kinesiology 570 class. I'm really excited to verbally present this study design with you about exercising and maternal females with cardiac disease. This was very interesting to me considering my career is in exercise physiology, so anything related to cardiac rehab or um, electrophysiology of the heart and physiological changes of the body really fascinate me. So we'll go ahead and get started. An introduction, I know this seems a little bit long, but what I want to summarize or paraphrase in this is that there's a huge contradiction between exercise benefits and the harmful effects of exercise during pregnancy, especially in women that carry cardiac diseases. So, an introduction here is just stating that cardiac disease is an illness overall, and that exercise in pregnancy via research has been known to be beneficial. So, those two concepts that are standardized in medical practices kind of contradict each other. So, a statement of the problem, the contradiction of benefits versus negative impacts of exercise during pregnancy in women with cardiac disease. The research has a lot of limitations as well, small sample sizes, types of cardiac disease, etc. So the real problem is that a lot of research obviously exemplifies exercise being beneficial to human bodies, even during pregnancy or not. However, with a cardiac disease and the physiological changes that occur during exercise in the heart, that could be detrimental. So the problem here is that there's no definitive answer as to whether or not exercising during pregnancy in women that carry a cardiac disease is actually beneficial or harmful. My research question is, should maternal females that convey or are at risk for cardiac disease engage in physical activity? So what I chose to do is a systematic review. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering what that is, as it's not discussed in this class. So, full disclosure, I did have a 45-minute phone call with Dr. Monica O'Rourke, and she advised that this was probably going to be the best design for this study, considering that mine is a very qualitative review of literature to formulate a closer answer to a clearly formulated question. It's not a meta-analysis, as that uses statistical data. In a systematic review, you're not using any kind of statistical data at all. You're not using an effect size. It is very, very simple. Just you're comparing and contrasting literature and research and formulating an entire study based on the analysis of that research. So the purpose of this systematic review is to demonstrate the contradicting perceptions on the effects of exercise on pregnant females with cardiac disease and determine via a review of literature if the presence of cardiac disease in these participants helps or hinders the individual's ability to exercise during pregnancy. The significance of this systematic review is to compare and contrast the contradicting themes of exercising during pregnancy in maternal females with cardiac disease. So again, just kind of reiterating that a lot of research contradicts itself. So conducting a review of literature can kind of compartmentalize the pros and cons of exercising during pregnancy in females that carry a cardiac disease. You may wonder how this benefits kinesiology at all. Well, exercise alone is kinesiology. Well, I shouldn't say alone, but kinesiology is the study of movement and the body, and I think that delving into a subject that's not thoroughly researched is very limited on the interventions and the quality research of this topic. Finding a definitive solution to this type of problem actually might be able to standardize medical protocols and recommendations that physicians should be more aware of later in the future. Deemed limitations, obviously, the female has to be pregnant at this time, or else the study would be kind of null and void. I also suggested, or actually would require that they not have any prior births, as that might already affect their cardiac output and their ability and some tissue in their hearts as well. Limitations of this study, taking into account nutritional intake for these participants that were researching, monitoring of a participant's diet definitely affects heart health. And then discussing their physical activity history. Exercising obviously aids the heart and it increases heart muscle. So previous exercise history influences the severity of the cardiac disease. So if they were very, very active, they might have a cardiac disease that is not so severe versus somebody who was living a sedentary lifestyle and their heart may be completely damaged. So that would definitely have an impact on the results. Assumptions: participants provided detailed descriptions of medication and cardiac history, and they also followed all protocol throughout the studies that we have researched. My hypothesis is that light to moderate exercise in pregnant females with cardiac disease is beneficial to the health and wellness of the mother, as well as increasing the likelihood of a positive fetal outcome. So the outcome of the fetus is not so much the purpose of the systematic review, but it definitely can bring to light any kind of harmful effects that might happen or the probability of a negative fetal outcome within these research studies that might have been, that physicians could be aware of later. Adult congenital heart disease. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what this is. Throughout the study and my draft, I usually use the term women with congenital heart disease, which is abbreviated as WCHD. But both are pretty much, they concern the same thing. Adult is just a general term for no gender, but women with cardiac disease is obviously more specific. The NYHA is the New York Health Association functional class. This is a scale used by physicians and medical experts to determine the functionality of an individual's heart. And it has 4 classes, and 4 being the most severe, 1 not being severe. And we're not going to delve too much into detail, but NYHA functional scale is reiterated a lot throughout research studies and the analysis of the literature that I had searched. So it's definitely an important abbreviation to know. My literature review, physiology of pregnancy. The first subtopic that I want to go over is what changes during pregnancy. And those of you that have kids definitely know. So the hemodynamic effects and the cardiac output. Hemodynamic meaning like blood pressure, and the cardiac output. So what this exemplifies is that that exercise could increase the strength of the heart during gestation, but potentially cause harmful effects due to limited heart functionality. So with increased cardiac output being similar to exercise versus delivery, with people that have cardiac disease, that could either help them during exercise, as it's increasing heart muscle, or it could be detrimental with a cardiac output as high as giving delivery, it's delivering a baby. So should they exercise during pregnancy? Will that help their heart, or will it not, because their cardiac output might not be might not have the endurance of regular hearts that aren't affected by a disease. So that's a subtopic of literature that I discussed. There has been a study done on the parameters for maternal females to exercise with cardiac disease. These parameters were limited in the fact that some of them underwent medication therapy. Their sample size was pretty small, and their type of cardiac disease as well. Every cardiac disease is going to vary from individual to individual. So somebody could have something as far as, a stenosis to something severe like ventricular malfunctioning. So these parameters didn't really delve into the type of cardiac disease. They just kind of wanted to gauge a number that seemed to be more familiar among all the participants, which, as I listed here, it is less than 150 beats per minute and less than 25 milliliters per kilogram per minute of VO2 or oxygen uptake. So here, just a summary. The systematic review discusses the potential conflicts between exercising during pregnancy for women with cardiac disease. Cardiac disease is the number 1 cause of maternal mortality, so that's definitely another factor that we wanted to take into consideration is how many women had passed because they had exercised during pregnancy while possessing a cardiac disease, et cetera, et cetera. Again, there are physiological changes that undergo, so we want to make sure that either they stay inside those parameters that were studied or study those parameters again and retest with more detail, larger sample size. So a systematic review can analyze experiments conducted by professionals to determine a definitive solution to the theme of maternal females with a cardiac disease participating in exercise, and if this action should or should not be recommended by medical professionals. Methods, what I did was a systematic review. I chose this review again, not only by the recommendation of the professor, but also because it seemed more relevant as I was comparing two sides or two perspectives, not necessarily answering a question or using statistical data like a meta-analysis would. A systematic review does not determine solutions, but rather compartmentalizes the research analyzed and formulates answers to clear questions based on empirical data. So again, I'm not using statistical data to draw conclusions. I'm just comparing two perspectives and maybe providing some kind of reference. The participant demographics varied among publications. After review of literature, ages women studied from 25 to 38 years old. Discrimination of race or ethical considerations definitely weren't a factor, although maybe region or geographical location would definitely be something to take into consideration during a study like this. Some instruments that I used are going to be CASP and the EpiReviewer. So CASP is a software that's a little difficult to explain, but it takes ideas from the research that you've studied and made sure that it doesn't duplicate and it doesn't, that it's actually quality, that it's peer reviewed, that it's true, that it's valid, it's not plagiarized, and that it's actually good quality research, and that would be, conveyed under the guidelines of a qualitative study. The EpiReviewer is a software that was derived by Thomas and Hardin in 2008, and this is considered a software that uses a technique called line-by-line coding. And what that means is it takes phrases that are consistently seen in research articles and it derives concepts that are similar. For example, if somebody said, exercising during pregnancy is beneficial, you could put that in one line, and then in the next line, it would take another, what am I trying to say here? It would take another article and it would pull from the first line and insert other lines that are similar to that, so that way it forms similar concepts. So what it's doing is compartmentalizing the concepts that's found in all the research that you're doing, which can be very helpful to derive various concepts over the course of however long and however many articles you find. Approval from the IRB is needed because of the secondary data. The data that I'm using utilized human participants in their experiments. So therefore, because it is secondary data that I'm utilizing and citing for this study or for the systematic review, the IRB is required. So the procedure, the first one would be going under the CBU library, searching databases ranging from PubMed to Medline, any biological databases, formulating those into CASP to remove any duplicates, submit into EpiReviewer for conceptual recognition, transfer all that data into a Microsoft Excel sheet, analyze the spreadsheet, and determine a plausible solution. The data entry will be formulated into a Microsoft Excel sheet, and there will be no statistical software used here, but all the articles will be extracted from the previously mentioned databases in the CBU library. So I hope that you guys enjoyed learning about a systematic review, and I can't wait to see all of your guys' videos and all the studies that you guys have come up with. I hope that you understand a systematic review a little bit. Dr. Monica O'Rourke did a great job of educating me on that. So I hope you guys enjoy my presentation and learn a little something new that we haven't talked about in this class before. So good luck.